Hello. I want to welcome Edward today, co-founder and chief client officer for OpenPlay. First question to you, brief introduction from you, please. Your current job titles and also what technologies or the area of technologies that excite you the most right now.
Excellent. And Jay, thanks for having me. I am Edward Ginis. I am the co-founder and chief client officer at OpenPlay, but my role is broad and wide. I don't have just one title or one hat. As any co-founder of any music or any technology company knows, you as a co-founder, you wear whatever hat is needed in the organization at the time. I'm an engineer by background, but I shifted into the music industry in the mid 2000s when the industry was going through a really big transition, a shift from physical to digital, at least in the US. And I had a front row seat to really understand what that meant for the industry. And I didn't have all of the concerns and fears of the past. So I didn't build or think about building things that were going to break anything from the past. I just didn't know what I didn't know. And that turned out to be a really cool advantage because the company that I joined, that I started my music career in, is a company called Concord. And Concord is now a very well-known company, but back then it was not. It was a small jazz-focused music company, but had a lot of aspiration. We wanted to acquire catalogs and buy companies that had those catalogs, and that was a very uncommon thing that was happening in 2005. It's very common today and wasn't common then. And what we needed in order to acquire companies was to build technology that allowed us to manage the catalogs that we were buying, understand what we were buying, understand what the assets were, and more importantly, get them as ready for commercial use as possible to find as much revenue against those assets as possible. So for me, the lens has always been how do we build tools that enable us at the time Concord as both a label and a publisher to be able to understand what we own, leverage what we own, and ensure that as we grow, as the industry grows, that we have a piece of technology that is really a business driver for that growth, something that allows us to build on top of what we built. And there's a lot of technology that excites me, especially now in today's world. There's all this constant talk about AI, but I think that there's a lot of a misconception about what AI can do for you in the music space. I think a lot of people focus on the generative side of AI, the most litigious, most dangerous aspect of it, which is taking artists' creations and doing something else with them without paying those royalties. That's actually not the part of AI that I think is the most beneficial for the music industry today. I think the AI that we need the most is very back office, right? It's helping us with our royalty matching. It's helping us being able to fill in gaps in metadata that makes it so that music is more discoverable everywhere in the world. I think AI utilization and translations of content so that it's accessible to a lot more markets, and the use of AI to create new technologies to exploit existing music. I think is all that I think is much more achievable, much more necessary, and I'm also mostly excited about because we are employing a lot of interesting AI approaches at OpenPlay, specifically to help in those exact areas.
Uh, Great. So I want to talk to you. I want to listen to you today about data management in a music industry, specifically the importance of metadata processing systems, which is very complicated problems in the industry around the world. And so my questions to you is that you mentioned previously in your talk, again and again in your interviews, that delivering metadata to DSP is no longer a competitive advantage. So what do you mean by this?
So, first of all, data management is hard. I think part of the challenge of data management in our industry is that up until 12 years ago, people didn't really care about metadata at all. It was not a big deal. It was not important. It was label copy. And it was label copy that grew up from the label copy that was on the inlays on physical CDs and booklets. It was never in a form that had to be as robust and transmittable and deliverable. So metadata has always been one of the weakest parts of the music industry because it just did not have the care and love and attention that it deserved. It was always the janitorial side of the industry. It was just something that had to be done. That's changed and that's changing rapidly. Today, metadata is one of the primary drivers of accuracy of payments. It's one of the primary drivers of discovery so that the fans are able to find and connect with the music that they need to connect with. And it's also part of the main drivers of being able to find new talent and drive new signings to a label is using data to that advantage. So metadata, the reason why it's previously been such a competitive piece is that the few groups that built the systems to deliver content to Apple or Spotify or all of these other DSPs, they built them because no one else did. And when they built them, they kept it very secretively inside their walls. It was, they were competing on who has a better CMS to capture the content. And once they've captured it, they never wanted to give it up. They felt that this was now their competitive advantage to have your content in their platform, and they were the ones delivering it to the DSPs. And this ecosystem has made it difficult, and even to this day, still difficult, to be able to have a rights holder simply ask for their data back, their metadata, their assets, and move to a different commercial partner, move from one distributor to the other. And I have long believed, and I think this industry is now starting to understand, that you need to be flexible and nimble. And the complexity of getting data from you to the provider, it's no longer as complex as it was 10, 12 years ago. And now there are hundreds of distributors, hundreds of options. So for me, the act of delivering content, just delivering it from point A to point B, is a commodity. It's no different than you uploading something to a Google worksheet or some other tool that you use. You're not paying a special rate or a special price to upload your file somewhere. Neither should that be the case with music. I think for us, we think delivery is just a function of getting content somewhere. The magic is what else can you do with that content? How else can you leverage that content? How else can you enhance that content? That's the competitive advantage. We've shifted the competitive advantage from just delivery to all these other aspects that could actually enhance and find more revenue for existing content.
What can you give us some example of how labels or distributors are enhancing this metadata?
Well, great question. So, as the industry evolves, as the needs of DSPs get more sophisticated, as they build new tools, those tools need more data. For example, there was a big desire now to tag your content, to be able to identify all of its properties, its instruments, all those things that labels historically never had to tease out of a track. Now they need to. And if they don't, they're leaving opportunities on the table. So, one aspect of enhancement is taking existing catalog and enriching the data so that one, you're filling gaps of missing information, whether it's where it's been recorded, who the mixers were, who the musicians were. It's no longer just tell me who the primary artist is on this track. It's show me the 35 people that were involved in this track. So it's enhancement of that type of content. Then you have the enrichment of the assets themselves. The music quality has increased over time. The quality of the images has increased over time. So tools had to be created in order to be able to enhance those images, enhance that audio, having it positioned so that it can be ready for the future DSPs, not just the what's been in the market today. And if anyone who's ever left a distributor to went to another one, they know that that act requires you to take down your content and redeliver that content back into those same DSPs, but now you have to meet the current requirements, not the requirements that you may have needed to meet 10 years ago. So there's a lot of work that people don't realize that has to go in to getting that catalog ready again.
Okay, so the on the opposite side, what type of challenges are you hearing from labels or distributors, particularly for indie labels or independent distributors who wants to manage their catalogs and also, front lines, but there might be some issues internally. So, what are some of the challenges that faces those companies?
There are no challenges. I'm kidding. There are lots of challenges. And I think part of the challenge is that the smaller the label, the smaller the group, the less resources they have. They don't have the staff to do the work that's necessary. And I think this is why there's been a lot of entrenched positions in the industry, which is why there's less mobility between one commercial partner to another, is that it has been a lot of work to get a catalog even to a distributor, let alone moving distributors. So the challenges we hear are about how do we use a platform like this? How do we leverage our data, but we don't have the staff or the team to be able to dedicate huge amounts of time and resources? Which is why when I'm often asked who our biggest competitors are, our biggest competitor is inertia, the act of just not doing anything new, staying with what you know, Excel, Dropbox. We see it all the time. And they justify it because they say we're small and we don't really necessarily need to change these processes. But the reality is that what happens is that their catalog increases in size and the complexity of that data increases as well, and they spend a lot more time than they realize, even if with the existing people, than they should maintaining that data and being able to keep it ready for use, ready for sync, ready for all this exploitation.
So, from your perspective, I want to ask, is there enough investment in operation processes? Let's say, compared to the investment towards the finding a new artist or developing new artists. What do you think about that?
I think the investments have started to become a bit more impactful. I think, again, because the industry did not respect or care about metadata just 10 years ago, it was never an investment area that they focused on. And it was often our distributor will do this for us, right? We don't need to manage this. We don't need to think about it. Why else are we giving up 20% of our revenue if we have to do this work as well? So I think historically there was very little investment, almost no investment in this side of the equation, unless you're at the majors. The majors have definitely invested in people and systems, and I think the indie markets have just been reliant on the aftermath of that. Whether it's a distribution company tied to one of these majors, whether it's another group that is associated with a distribution company that they work with, they for the lack of better term, they become complicit and lazy in ways because they didn't need to develop this muscle and invest in this area. That's changing. That's changing rapidly, especially as this industry consolidates. If your content that you are now, in the hands of what you think is a competitor, you do not want that to be the case. You do not want your content to be now restricted or living inside of your competitor's walls. And you're now thinking a lot more about what you, as the rights holder, needs to do to make sure that that content sits just with you, sits just with your organization. And we're seeing a lot of that now. We're seeing a lot of groups that are tired of hopping from one distributor to another who's getting acquired one after another, and they want to they want to be with a company that is as independent as a technology company, one that does not own any copyrights, the one does not own and compete with their artists that many of these organizations currently do.
Okay, great. So speaking of investment, I want to talk to you about OpenPlay direct delivery. So you've made this happen a few years ago. So how does it help small labels and independent label from this solutions? Is that
Yeah,
your
that's a
preference?
great question. So, when we first launched OpenPlay, our focus has been helping them communicate with their distributors. And we worked with almost all of the major distribution companies to interface OpenPlay into them. This is so that we, again, on our mission was to make it so that OpenPlay is the one source of truth that the rights holder never needs to leave from. They can just change their relationships. And as we expanded this business, we've had more and more labels come to us and say we do everything ourselves. We're already promoting. We don't need any support. We don't need any money. We just need to be able to go to the market. We want to get our content to these DSPs. Can you help us? And historically, we've always interfaced with distribution companies. And when we launched direct delivery 2 years ago, it was a different flavor than what we just launched today, which I'll talk about in a moment. But direct delivery was always a path to help labels that have either their own deals, so that means that they are large enough to have a DSP deal, or they're members of Merlin and they have a Merlin deal, so that they're able to use those deals and we can help them get that content to the market based on those deals. What we learned in this process by helping some labels get on board is that many labels don't have their own deals. And also, many labels may be too small to qualify to be Merlin members. So just the act of them joining Merlin is not something that is easy for them to do, or maybe they're not ready to do it. So for us, what we wanted to do and what we announced officially today, is we launched a program called OpenPlay Reach. And OpenPlay Reach is now offering the same options as we had before, which is you can bring your deals, you can bring your distributor deals, you can bring your Merlin deals. But now we have our own deals that we can offer to all of these labels. So if you do not have a Merlin deal, you don't qualify for one, we now are able to offer our own delivery deals to all the DSPs so that we can maximize everyone's reach. And it's not just distribution, it's also connections into UGC claiming, it's connections into neighboring rights, it's connections into all these third-party marketing services and marketplace services that are necessary in place. So again, for us, the path for direct delivery is actually now morphed into Reach, OpenPlay Reach, and that OpenPlay Reach program now is able to handle any label of any size with a variety of options to choose from. So they can choose the combination that fits well with them. And we're probably the only platform in the market that can allow a label to say, I want to distribute direct to these two DSPs. I want to use Merlin for these 40 DSPs, and I want to use your deals for these 20 other DSPs. So OpenPlay is designed to allow that level of configuration, and it's down to a per release basis because you might have a release or a single that may have a different deal than the rest of your catalog. And we, again, are designed for that level of complexity.
All right. Great, Edward. Thank you so much for your time today. This is very insightful, and hopefully this is very insightful for Japanese industry.
Thank you for having me. And I'm a big believer that the Japanese industry is at a real crossroads in the industry. It's at its transformation moment, a moment that I would say happened in the U.S. maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago. This is the moment in Japan where the systems have to change, the infrastructure has to change. Digital transformation is a massive process, but if you don't go through it now, even though it's painful, then you're going to suffer in many ways. The globalization will be weaker, the revenue will be smaller, discovery will be nascent. So it's really important in the Japanese markets to think about what that investment means and what the long-term value of that investment will look like. So even though it might seem like a expensive pain now, the pain 5, 10 years from now for not doing it will be even more expensive. And I think the value of what we can help the industry with is we've been through these transformations of all sizes, small and large. We've been in the middle of some of the most complicated systems and some of the best systems. And what we found is that there is a roadmap, there is a path to success, and there's a path to failure. And we've seen both. And we are here to really help the Japanese industry from a different lens than anyone else is coming in with. We want to help the industry go through its digital transformation, use the tools that we built, use the experience that we've developed over the last 10, 12 years doing just this. And because OpenPlay handles physical product as well as it handles digital product, the best system of record to transition from those systems because we can handle the physicality that Japan still drives its business on, as well as the digitalization and helping digitize for the future. So very excited to be here, very excited to help the market expand and help Japanese music globalize the way that Korea has been able to be successful with K-pop.